Hello.
They did, but
Hello.
Okay, this is Cher. We made it to
The Justin Brace house?
Justin Brace house, and Cher's out here waiting for us, along with her dog Scout,
Who's ready for you to
Who's-
throw the ball.
ready to throw the ball, but with no ball to throw. We're going in. Thank you so much, Cher, for allowing me into your community here. What's the name again?
Justin Brace.
Justin Brace. And I really look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you.
My first question would be, what inspired you to do this, coming to living in an intentional community?
So Justin Brace is a unique kind of intentional community. When you think of intentional communities, you think of a group of people who live together, who share a common mission and vision. And there is a group of people at Justin Brace, but we're not all living together. So I would say what really drove me to this was a desire to live a certain ideology, a certain vision of inclusivity and hospitality and generosity that I had not seen modeled, and it was not accessible in the affluent communities that I had lived in and ministered among before moving to Chicago. So what really happened is I moved here and I started to just eat at the soup kitchens. And then
Is there one experience that really sticks out in your mind as making the intentional community all worthwhile?
yeah, a lot of transformation happens around the table. That is definitely the discipline, the spiritual sacrament of sharing a meal every week is a very transformative experience for all of us. But I would say that learning to die well has probably been the thing that has had the greatest impact on all of us. And who us is the us is the group of people who continue to gather weekly and do life together. We are every shape, color, size, orientation, background. We're from all sorts of places, and when we leave here, we go to lots of different places. And so when we're together, that is the group that is the family. We are the root system of all the events that we do and all the parties we do and all the dinners that we host. That's the us. And so that group of people, today's generation is different than if you had come here 3 years ago. There was a season in, I think, 2014, 15, and 16. And in about a year and a half period during that time, we lost around a dozen community members.
Wow.
And in addition to that, we had one diagnosed with cancer and was able to have that go into remission. And so there was a lot of suffering, a lot of pain for the affluent members of our community who are mostly young people. Death is new for them. Death was not something that they had much experience with. Even many of them hadn't even begun to lose grandparents yet. So coming to a place like this and becoming friends with men and women who society rejects, and then sitting by their deathbed with them and learning to say goodbye to a life that an affluent young person just graduating college would otherwise have never known existed, would have gone on through life never knowing what they had missed. For them to wrestle and grapple with what it was to love somebody who's not even reconciled to their own family, who has all sorts of struggles with mental illness or addiction or chronic homelessness, like to love a person like that and then lose a person like that and then like learn about grief and loss through that kind of an experience, I think for all of us, has been transformative. I would say that the we still haven't figured out all of our terminology, but I would say that the more vulnerable members of our community are deeply impacted being part of this community because the fragility of their lives is now kind of encased in a community that they can trust will be there. Whereas before this community existed, there was no support system. There was no feeling of family or safety that if I was sick, if I got that diagnosis, that somebody would visit me or care for me or even pray for me. And then for the affluent members of our community, I think it really, again, most of them are young, and so I think grappling with death before they're even starting their careers is such an important orientation to reality, to their reality that they will not be able to get away from, no matter what society tells them and tries to lure them with. They will not be able to escape death in the end. So being at such a kind of embarking place in their lives to be able to wrestle with death in the realm of also social injustice. I have seen that sacred opportunity of dying well being just such an impactful thing for the whole spectrum of what our community represents.
And with young people who have never experienced that. Oh my goodness. What are your hopes for the future here at Just Embrace?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in light of that last question, my short, long-term goal is to be able to, this sounds so morbid, but to bury our current generation of elderly folk, of vulnerable folk. We have, with all of the loss that we've experienced, our numbers are lower. Numbers don't mean anything to me, but technically we are a smaller community than we were 3 years ago. Because when you grieve as a community, it's harder to be as welcoming, and it's harder to open yourselves up to new relationships, especially when you're already so vulnerable and hurting and wounded in many places. So we are we're a smaller community than we've been, and when I think about, if we're going to be able to sustain this, I just dig my heels in and say I'm not going anywhere until I'm able to walk a couple of our members through to the end of their lives. So that's definitely a short term, like bare bones. That's what I'm determined to do. Ideally, we would love to either purchase this place and renovate it and make it a little bit more safe and stable, or to be able to find another comparable place in the neighborhood, ideally, where we could relocate and continue to live this way, but live this way in a more confident way. We don't. This current housing situation is not sustainable. We don't have a lease. Don't have a super great relationship with our landlord, and the neighborhood is gentrifying very rapidly. So we definitely feel like we're on borrowed time at this property, in this space, and we are actively looking for other options and hoping to raise the money to be able to prepared to relocate wherever God might be sending us and preparing us for. In addition to that, I'd love to see us have a season of new life and fresh family members added to our community. That all depends on people being open and ready for intimacy and vulnerability, and that's not something you can rush. That's not something you can force. And we are not entitled to our neighbors trusting us like that. Our neighbors love us, and a guy just met me at the gate today after work and just rushed up to me and hugged me, and you saw that, didn't you?
I saw that.
And he won't come and be part of our Bible study, and that's fine. But he loves us and he respects us, and so I would love to see, in addition to that beautiful dynamic continuing, I'd love to see us be able to add a couple new members to our community, to just help fill some of the space that those that we've lost have left, and help us kind of come out of that slump of grief and create a new generation of family. If that
Perfect.
fits.
Yes. And